Welcome to Local 4 Live, everybody. A lot to cover in the next 2 hours. First up, two big votes on Capitol Hill today. One on the Affordable Care Act and the other on the War Powers Act. We're going to break down what that actually means. And then flu season is in full swing, and in Metro Detroit, we are seeing a huge spike in cases. We're going to talk to Dr. McGeorge about how you can keep your family safe. And with the Detroit Auto Show just a week away now, the executive director is here to talk about what you can expect and some new things this year.
From downtown Detroit, Local 4 Live starts right now.
And thank you for joining us for Local 4 Live. I'm Nick Monticelli. In Salt Lake City, a manhunt is underway for the gunman who started shooting outside of a church during a funeral. This happened in the parking lot of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. 8 people were shot, 2 have died, 3 others are in critical condition at a hospital. Police say there was a fight before the shooting started.
We were actually just getting ready to leave. When all of a sudden, as the ceremony was going on, we heard gunshots outside of the chapel, and we were just told just to stay inside until further notice. But from my understanding, there were more people that were shot, and after this whole situation, even at a funeral, it's just a little bit more sad to see even more gone.
This should never have happened. This should never have happened outside a place of worship. It should not have happened at a celebration of life that was occurring inside of the church.
Now, police say the shooting appears to be a targeted shooting and was not a hate-based crime targeting the church nor the religion. The FBI is now helping with that investigation. Protesters also hit the streets in downtown Detroit holding signs against immigration enforcement and chanting, "We will not be silenced." This happened after that shooting in Minneapolis. The city has seen several immigration raids in recent months, and President Trump has even suggested deploying the National Guard to help fight what he calls rampant crime in Detroit. Well, charges could soon be filed against the man arrested after allegedly trying to get into a Romulus middle school with a gun. The superintendent said the district trains for situations like this, and security locked down the building before the man got inside. None of the students were hurt. We still, though, do not know a motive or if the man had any connections to the school. A Marine City business is shutting its doors after a heated incident involving cameras and pepper spray. The confrontation was caught on video and posted online by a group claiming to defend First Amendment rights. Critics say these groups often provoke confrontations to get social media attention. Since the video went viral, Zimmerman's meat market owners have received death threats. Amaya Kuznicki is explaining why they have decided it's no longer safe to stay open.
Actually, in the YouTube video, you can see 3 people filming outside the business, going back and forth with the owners. At one point, one of the filmers even pulls out a can of pepper spray.
Stay the back! Stay the back!
We wanted to be in a historic little town. I just had no idea this was what we bargained for.
According to Richard and his daughter Sarah, this all started when 3 people showed up outside their business, Zimmerman's Meat Market, and began recording without any explanation.
Can I help you?
What kind of help you offering?
The visitors travel around recording businesses to show First Amendment rights, but things turned physical when one of them pepper sprayed Richard. We asked why, and the person said they feared for their safety and warned Richard to back off, while Richard says he was just trying to get help from a nearby officer.
The guy kept on saying something about stay away from me, and it's like, I'm not going for you. You can see in the video where he moves to stay in front of me, and I thought he was spraying silly string at me or something.
Sarah says the argument got out of hand and admits she was part of it, but she also tried to call the police to stop it, making 3 911 calls.
I had no idea why they did this, who they were, where they came from, and what they wanted.
An officer did show up, but both owners say they're unhappy with how the police handled the situation. They claim the department didn't take it seriously.
We were used and not protected at all.
Since then, they've received death threats, decided to close the business, and are seeking legal help. They've even put a sign on their door that says, "Don't count on MCPD to protect you." The police chief says they're aware of the sign and respect the business owner's right to free speech. He added that their focus remains on providing professional law enforcement services to the whole community. As for the incident, he says he can't comment further due to the ongoing investigation.
I did everything I was supposed to do. I called 911. I was scared, and now my life is over because the police wouldn't protect me.
The business owners did have a meeting with the police chief and the city manager. I spoke with the city manager on the phone, and he said as soon as the investigation is over, there will be a review done on the way things were handled by police. Reporting for Local 4, I'm Amaya Kaznicki.
All right, Amaya, thank you. A live look now at Capitol Hill. The House is expected to vote on a Democratic plan to extend health subsidies for 3 years, but the Senate could make that a tough fight. These subsidies made Obamacare much more affordable, helping a record 24.3 million people for signing up for 2025. The enhanced tax credits allowed lower-income Americans to get coverage with little or no monthly cost and helped middle-class families for the first time. 4 out of 5 people found plans for $10 or less per month. Since the subsidies lapsed on January 1st, healthcare costs have risen for 22 million Americans. Now, ahead of today's vote, Local 4 talked to Michigan lawmakers from both sides to see where they stand.
The folks coming to testify at our press conferences here on the Hill, on the Capitol steps, talk about the fact that they have cancer now. They can't stop having cancer tomorrow. And their care is interrupted because of the fact that we have not extended, the Congress has not extended the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Again, it helps keep insurance affordable for communities like ours.
The biggest reason why I don't like these extended subsidies is because they don't go to reduce premiums. All these subsidies do is go to line the pockets of big insurance companies who, I might add, their profits have increased over 600%.
Now, Congresswoman McClain tells Local 4 she will be voting no, while Congresswoman Tlaib said she will be voting yes today. Open enrollment ends January 15th in most states, meaning there is still time for people to shop for coverage before being automatically renewed into their same plan. All right, we are now less than 1 week away from a signature event in the city. As you're looking live now at Huntington Place, that's the Detroit Auto Show. Next week, media from around the world will be walking into this area to get a look at the latest and greatest in the auto industry. So what can you expect from this year's show? There's going to be more than 40 auto brands represented, from the Detroit Big Three, of course, to Rolls-Royce and so many more. There are also some brand new experiences and some returning favorites like the track test drives. The show is opening to the public on Saturday the 17th. It runs through Sunday the 25th. But fortunately, because I chose a great profession, I get to go to the auto show a little early and hang out with Sam Clement. He's the executive director of the auto show. So many changes for the good, the positive here. I do want to first talk about this new activation that you started dropping hints on a few months ago with Visit Detroit and this whole family interactive zone in the atrium area, right?
Yeah, it's called the Visit Detroit Interactive Experience. And our thought was there's a lot of young people. We've heard people like Jim Farley talk about the need for young talent in our industry. And so we think this is an opportunity to expose young people to technology and opportunities in the workforce related to the auto industry. And so we'll have some augmented reality, we'll have some virtual reality where people can go in and they can test doing oil changes and changing a tire.
Oh, really?
So that when they get into the career, in their real job, they're not intimidated by it. They've seen it in some capacity. And so the Michigan Science Center, another group that we're working with, they'll be there to do some STEM activities. So it's all about exposing young people to career opportunities in the auto industry.
So give me kind of an age range. If I've got a little boy, little girl that's maybe 4, 5, 6, is that too young or is that about right?
No, it literally is about 4 all the way up to through high school. Okay. I mean, that's the expectation, where we'll have a kids ride and drive track so they can do that, the Power Wheel stuff. Yes. But then you really get into the science aspect of it. And I think that's where the kids, their eyes get wide. They start thinking about where there might be a pathway for me to get into this industry. And I think that's a huge piece of what the show can be moving forward.
Right, okay, so that's probably the biggest, newest thing that you've got this year, right?
I think it's one of many. We've got a couple others. So the Michigan Overland Adventure, so this is an outdoor area. So we know that Michigan has a huge culture of people going up north, and they're bringing forerunners, and they're bringing big trucks out there with tents on the back of them. And so we're having a big exhibit part of the show in that space. So that's brand new to the show this year.
We're actually looking at one of your ads that you post on Instagram right now. And this is a whole culture, right?
It is. Absolutely, and it's a culture that's huge in the state of Michigan. And so if we're going to be a show for not only the city of Detroit, but Michigan at large, I think there's something to tap into, and I think people will really enjoy that.
Yeah, okay. Something else that you did, I don't know if this is new. I think it is new, the Route 66.
So the drive home is something we've done before.
Right.
But the route that we're on right now, Route 66, it's the centennial of the motor road.
Yes.
And so to celebrate that, we started the auto show earlier this weekend in Santa Monica, and we have 9 classic cars that are driving all the way from Santa Monica. Route 66 ends in Chicago, but they're going to come here in Detroit because naturally we're.
You could have had a beautiful sunny day on the pier.
It was all right. It was warm. I'll tell you that. It was warm, so that was fine. But it was great, and it's been great to kind of share the auto show story across the country. I mean, all of the cars are branded with the Detroit Auto Show, and we're telling stories on every stop, and so it's been great.
Yeah, okay. The auto show obviously has evolved quite a bit over the last couple of decades it's been here. What do you think the show, if you were to compare it to 10 years ago, looks like for somebody who hasn't been there yet? Because it's a brand new show.
It's a brand new show. Yeah, for those who have, the history of the show is obviously one of the best shows in the world.
Yeah.
And so, but we've definitely evolved it. I think if someone went to the show even last year, it's going to be a very different experience coming here in 2026. We've rebranded all kinds of things. Every detail has been really dissected, and we've put a lot of attention to it this year. So it'll be a brand new experience. I think that people will really enjoy kind of this new iteration of what we've got.
What kind of conversations have you had with the manufacturers, especially the big three, since they're our bread and butter here? In my opinion, the show has kind of been forced to change because it used to be many years ago that this auto show was where new cars were unveiled.
Yep.
That's not the way it works anymore. The internet has changed everything.
For sure.
The automakers can unveil whatever they want, whenever they want.
Yep.
So how has that kind of forced your show to evolve into what it is now and become more of this interactive experience? It isn't just about looking at the cars. I say that, because that's the biggest part of it. But you've got these activations and these experiences, and there's so many conversations about the future too, which we didn't used to have.
I think you're right about the fact that unveils are done in a different way. You certainly can see it online, but if something's unveiled online, you still want to see the car.
Yeah,
Seeing it on a screen is fine.
You want to touch it,
You want
right?
to see it. You want to see the chrome. You want to see just the flair of it. And so we will still have some of the newest vehicles. We'll also have groups like Ford who have invested heavily into the show this year.
Yep.
They are having 2 huge events at the show on January 13th, and I expect to see some unveils there. And then they're bringing their F1 group on January 15th at Michigan Central. So they believe in the show. They understand that this is not only a show for the city of Detroit, but this is where the world comes to look at the auto industry. Right. So, I give a ton of kudos to groups like Ford who say, no, there's a ton of value in auto shows, and they're bringing their new products. And I think we'll see others follow suit. COVID, I think, changed things, but now we've got our setting back in January, and I think there's a lot of momentum behind us.
You talk about this being not only a world-class show, but that draws attention from across the world. When I came back to Detroit after being away for almost 2 decades in different cities, I was amazed at the thousands and thousands of journalists that show up. I mean, the place is packed. You'd think it'd be a public day, but you walk in there on Wednesday morning next week, and it's shoulder to shoulder with media.
Yeah, we have 2 days of media and industry this year, which is nice because we've shifted our calendar back to a more traditional format. So we give media some of that first look, which is great because that's where the stories get amplified and that really builds some momentum. But we have a ton of newsmakers coming. We have national figures, thought leaders. We have politicians. We have industry leaders. That's an important piece of this. They're the ones that are talking about what the future looks like, whether it's from a policy standpoint or a consumer engagement standpoint. And so to have those voices in Detroit for 2 days is huge.
When you start planning, not only this show, but years down the road, how much of your mind is almost on kind of 2 different tracks? Number one, most important, seeing the cars, getting that experience. But number 2, it's almost becoming like a Mackinac policy conference where you're having these big, thought-provoking discussions about what the future of the industry is going to be.
We have 2 weeks, and that's a huge stage for us. I mean, you can do all kinds of things. You can have reveals like we will have, and then the next 2 days you'll have newsmakers having conversations about the industry, and then of course we have charity preview, which is a huge celebration. And when you open to the public, there's 9 days where you can do all kinds of stuff. This year we're gonna have 3 different concerts. We have 17 different DJs. We'll have athletes there doing signings. We'll have some celebrities there. So there's all kinds of stuff that you can do. I think it really is more of a festival. It's a 2-week festival in the city of Detroit, which is great. Right after the new year, you get restaurants engaged, you get businesses engaged, and it really is a way to build up the city and put the eyes of the world on Detroit.
All right, so if I am a person living here in Southeast Michigan, or frankly across the world that's going to be coming in, what's your advice on how I plan out my days? If I want to bring my family, do I want to go alone? Like, is there a guide? What do you think?
I think every day will be a different experience, truthfully. Okay. So if you come on maybe that first public day on January 17th, your experience on that Monday will be very different, and that following Saturday will be very different. And that's intentional. We don't want you to.
You're making it hard for us, man.
You want to come. You want to come, and we want people to come together. I think that's a huge piece that we've also learned, post-COVID. People still want to gather, and they want to gather in the city of Detroit. They want to celebrate the city. And I think you're going to see a true celebration of why we are the Motor City.
Yeah, it's funny you talked about people coming together because after the auto show was moved to August and that kind of test, you very quickly realize that people love being inside in the cold and being together.
Yeah, I mean, that's a credit to the state of Michigan. There's so much to do in the months of September. You know, people want to be outdoors, school is starting again, football's going. People want to be outside. They don't want to be inside.
Yeah.
This is a slower time. It's typically colder.
We want to be inside.
We want to be inside. We have to be inside to a degree. And so this is a great chance for us to come together as a community, celebrate the industry that built this city, and do it, you know, as a collective.
All right, one last question for you. If you had to choose one headline, one thing that's written about the auto show this year, what do you want it to be?
It's back, and it's bolder than ever.
Very simple. It's like you've been practicing that.
I've had a couple conversations about
it. All right, Sam, Executive Director of the Auto Show, thank you so much, man. We will see you next week.
Thanks, Nick.
Appreciate it. All right, we are good news and a bit of a warm-up right now, but you can't really see anything outside. Ashley is tracking that dense fog and the temperatures when we come back. Plus, a live look at the Straits of Mackinac, an update on that ongoing Line 5 controversy. Welcome back, everybody. Again, a live look at the Straits of Mackinac, where the Line 5 pipeline controversy continues. Governor Gretchen Whitmer is appealing a federal judge's decision from last month, blocking the state from shutting down the pipeline under the Straits. The judge ruled that federal authority overrides the state in this case. Line 5, owned by Canadian company Enbridge, has been transporting oil through the Great Lakes for over 70 years. But environmental groups warn about the danger of a potential oil spill that could be disastrous. All right, Ashley Barrissey here in studio with a look at a forecast that if you look at your graphics you can see, but if you look outside you can't see anything.
Can't see anything, you know, and I'm feeling for the folks a little farther south where those temperatures teetering around freezing. We've had some freezing fog, you know, down into Lenawee County.
How does freezing fog work?
So what is it? Fog is moisture, you know, so if it touches, you know, sidewalks and anything that is at 32 degrees or below, it can freeze on contact, just like it was rain.
Okay.
You know, so just very fine.
Seems like it cakes more of it though.
Could, absolutely. It's just not going to be as thick, but just enough to be a glaze to make it slick out there. So, yeah, we've had some schools down in Lenawee County on a delay because of the, you know, slick spots out there. But you can see now that we're past sunrise, some sun trying to peek through in those sky conditions. And part of it was the clearing skies overnight. The setup was we pushed out some of the clouds. We had that surface moisture from rain to melting snow, and then all that kind of trapped there. Didn't have a lot of wind to blow it around, and you get that fog formation, especially as temperatures begin to rise. So right now, we're on either side of the freezing mark, which could result in a few slick spots. We're down to 0-mile visibility in several areas around town. So just make sure that you use caution, give yourself a couple extra minutes on the roads. We'll kind of hop around town with our sky cams. Metro Camera completely fogged over. Belleville almost completely fogged over, and then a little improvement in Ann Arbor, but still not great. And then as we travel off towards our Windsor sky cam, that looks better. You can see the sun reflecting over the downtown skyline. Little hazy in Detroit, but we can see across the river. We even have a large large, freighter going by. So that looks great. And then our campus marshes camera, not too shabby either. Rooftop camera here at Local 4, looking okay. And that is another look at Detroit, where we were looking at probably the auto show there. And then Southfield, well, that's fogged over. So just want to give you really that firsthand perspective of what the view is out there, or the lack thereof. 51 degrees for the afternoon high today, well above the average of 33. We do have rain chances creeping in, and really the result of both the rain and the warmth will be a warm front lifting across the area. That warm front's attached to the low you see in the bottom corner of your screen. Seems like it's so far away, but it's not going to take long to work its way here across the Great Lakes. I'm thinking dinner hour onward is when it starts to get a little sloppy out there. So we stop the clock as we get between 5, 6 o'clock. That's when our southwestern communities start to see the onset of the rain. That lifts to the northeast, so it becomes more widespread as the evening rolls on. And then once that warm front's out of here through the overnight, Nick, we're going to be warming up through the overnight. So usually you take the dip. It's going to be the opposite tonight, which means between about 4 a.m. and 8 a.m. tomorrow, we could be hitting a record high temperature for the day, still with that scattered rain. That's not cooling us off. It's the cold front right here. By mid tomorrow morning that we will start to see the rain push out of here, and behind that the colder air builds in. So we'll get about a 20-degree drop from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. But the record stands at 55 degrees. We are forecasting about 59 in the early morning hours, which would crush the previous record. So I think we have a very solid chance at least tying it, but likely breaking it. And then the falling Friday temperatures will ensue. So you get that warmth early. Don't expect it in the afternoon when we're drying things out. This is a broader view of that front. Widespread rain for the first part of your day on Friday, and then drier later. But then we get a secondary system, and this could be a more potent low pressure that brings rain late Saturday, transitioning to snow overnight, and that lingering snow on Sunday could bring us maybe about 1 to 2 inches of snow in some spots. But it really all has to do with the track of the low. We're still 4 days out, so we'll be keeping a close eye on how that shakes out and give you updates. But I can tell you that it's a little more of a reality check, slightly above average, but 30 is going into next week.
I got to tell you, and I must confess, yesterday when you were talking about the warm-ups, I just had this vision of sunshine.
No, it was
It
sloppy.
didn't happen.
No, I know. So I went out to take out my outdoor decorations, and I was like, the temperatures I can handle.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'm gonna have to let everything dry in my garage
Yep.
because it was just so soggy out there. So,
And there was a little bit of drizzle for me. I don't know about you.
like it was like fine mist
Yes,
out there.
yes,
but
yes.
yeah, I mean, it wasn't rain, but
Okay, so when do I see like flip-flop sun weather?
May. We'll get what I call sprinter. We'll get that little taste of
Okay.
it, March or so, and then you always get that extra blast of winter in
just
March.
that reminder.
That's right.
Gosh. Well, the flu keeps spreading all over Michigan and the Midwest. Next, we're going to talk with Dr. McGee on how you can keep all of your little ones safe. Good morning, everybody. I'm Nick Monticelli with your Local 4 News update. You can roll up your sleeves to help save lives today and earn a chance to win some Super Bowl tickets. We've teamed up with Gardner White and the Red Cross for drives today from 11:30 to 5:15. You can donate blood at the stores in Ann Arbor, Auburn Hills, Canton, Howell, Novi, Shelby Township, and in Warren. You can see available appointments on the health page over on our website at clickondetroit.com. We've got another 90 minutes of Local 4 Live coming up. Next, we're going to talk with Dr. McGeorge about the rising numbers of the flu and what you can do to try to stop from getting it. Then, could we be seeing more trains in our future? The major project that is trying to connect Southeast Michigan to Northern Michigan. And the latest trend of grandma hobbies is sweeping the nation. Next, why those hobbies could be good for your brain. And Ashley's going to have your forecast here on Local 4 in just a few minutes.
From downtown Detroit, Local 4 Live starts right now.
And welcome back to Local 4 Live, everybody. I'm Nick Monticelli. Let's get to Minneapolis right now, where tensions are rising after a woman was shot and killed by an ICE agent. 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good was a U.S. citizen. Brian Abel is in Minneapolis with the latest on that investigation.
It is a quiet morning still here in South Minneapolis, but I do want to show you that people are out here in different areas of the intersection where this shooting happened yesterday, providing barricades. They're doing so in order to prevent cars from coming in and ramming protesters. And protests are expected again today as the vigil for Renee Good remains behind me.
Folks are angry. They are incredibly upset.
Officials in Minnesota addressing the fatal shooting of a woman in Minneapolis by an ICE agent Wednesday.
Renee Nicole Good should be alive.
Video from the scene shows officers approaching an SUV that is blocking the roadway. They tell the driver to exit the vehicle, but she does not. Then, after the gunshots, the vehicle crashes into a nearby parked car. A witness said when a man who identified himself as a physician told the officers to let him administer emergency medical care, the agent said no.
Can I go check a pulse?
No! Back up! Now!
I'm a physician.
I don't care.
We have our own medics.
Where are they? Where are they?
It was very obvious to everyone who had witnessed it all that she would not make it.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem defended the agent's actions, saying he was following his training.
ICE agents repeatedly ordered her to get out of the car. She refused to obey their commands. She then proceeded to weaponize her vehicle, and she attempted to run a law enforcement officer over.
State and local officials, including the city's mayor, reject that.
The narrative that ICE is spinning immediately after this was that this was purely self-defense and that the act by the victim was some sort of domestic terrorism. That, and I'll say it again, is
and a clearly frustrated Mayor Frey there is urging people here to exercise that anger through their First Amendment right to protest, but do so peacefully. That is what we have seen here so far, at least overnight. More protests are expected. This community wants answers. The Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension and the FBI are set to investigate this ICE shooting. In Minneapolis, Brian April reporting. Back to you.
All right, Brian, thank you much. The flu continues to surge in Michigan after some record-setting days around the holidays. Take a look at this CDC map showing flu activity across the country. You can see Michigan is purple. That is the highest possible level. The states surrounding Michigan are either very high or high as well. I talked with Local 4's Dr. Frank McGeorge about what you should know. Dr. Frank McGeorge, our resident expert on everything, basically. But I do want to talk to you a lot about flu and vaccinations. Yeah. Every map that I look at right now is Michigan bright red, which seems like
actually purple.
Oh, we're purple,
which is even worse.
Oh,
purple is worse than bright red. Yes, we are purple, which is the very highest level of influenza activity.
All right. So is this because it is just the season? Is it because there are less vaccinations? What's happening here?
So there's a few issues. First of all, we are purple earlier in the season than we usually are. Okay. I mean, oftentimes we get to purple. That's not uncommon. But to be purple this early is unusual, and that has to do with the circulating strain. So that's one. Vaccinations are another issue because vaccination rates have dropped, and so the flu is spreading more easily. That, of course, doesn't take into account for the fact that this year's flu strain also tends to spread a little bit more easily. Okay. So there's that compounding. And then, it's right after the holidays, and so, there's been plenty of opportunity now, for things to multiply and snowball even faster.
So if we turn purple this much earlier, do we have the possibility of getting out of the flu season earlier?
That's a great question that I don't have an answer to yet. Unfortunately, we don't know that answer until after the fact. We could stay purple for a really long time, and just a boatload of people, more than usual, are going to get infected over a longer period of time. So every year it's a little bit different. Sometimes we have a sharp upstrike, we peak, and then it just falls off. Sometimes we have a sharp upslope, and it just sort of stays steady for a while, and then it falls off. Sometimes we have a peak, and then it falls, and then it goes up again. So, we don't know what it's going to do. I can tell you that based on the rate of increase, the rate of increase this year has been faster than any increase in the last probably 20-something years. I mean, it's been a long time. Yeah. I mean, we, at Henry Ford, we reached a 33% positivity. So that basically means 1 in 3 people who were tested for the flu had the flu. We reached that rate like a couple weeks ago. So it just shot up like a rocket. The question is, again, how long it's going to stay at that high level.
But it's happening because this variant of the flu is just that much more transmittable?
Yeah, so H3N2 subclade K is what it is, and that basically...
It sounds fun.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's just super fancy. It makes me sound like a doctor. I didn't wear my stethoscope, so I just have to throw out fancy words to prove it. But basically what that says is that the version of H3N2, which tends to make people a little bit sicker by itself, subclade K tends to spread a little bit more easily. Now, some of that's because it's a newly mutated variety. So there are subclade, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, and this is a new one, K. Our defenses, our own immunity has not been built up to K just yet. So K will spread a little bit more easily. Plus the vaccine was not perfectly matched to K. The vaccine was actually matched to H3N2 J, which is what they thought was going to be circulating. So there's a lot of factors that go into it, but suffice it to say, the current version of H3N2 that is spreading more easily.
Now, in terms of symptoms, are you going to say the same things that are kind of flu-ish?
Yeah, so you are going to see pretty much the same things, you know, cough, congestion, fever, body aches. Occasionally, it's, you know, I don't want to confuse the stomach flu with influenza because they're very different, but occasionally influenza can also cause some GI upset, and H3N2 is known to do that because it does, again, generally cause somewhat more severe cases of the flu.
Okay.
But overall, the symptoms are going to be the same.
So if you think you have the flu, number one, when do you need to go see a doctor? Like when does it get to that point where it's like, this isn't a chicken soup kind of deal anymore?
So that's highly subjective. It's going to vary a lot depending on your underlying medical condition, for example. So if you're an older person that has heart or lung problems, you probably want to go in earlier than later because honestly, even if you were vaccinated and you get the flu, it is hopefully going to be milder, but on the off chance that it's not, we can give you antiviral medications like Tamiflu. If you're a small child, if you're an infant, and you are, or you're a parent of an infant, I should say, and your child is just like sick, dehydrated, they look awful, they have a high fever, you probably need to bring them in because they may get dehydrated and need fluids. If you are an average aged adult or a teenager, it goes to basically how short of breath you are, how dehydrated you are, and how high your fevers are. And I say it that way because depending on how high your fevers are, you're not only more likely to get dehydrated, but it might also be an indicator that you have an other infection. So if you're coughing a ton and you're short of breath and you have a fever that lasts longer than it should, you may have an underlying pneumonia that has developed as a consequence of having the flu. So you have to look for a bunch of different things, but again, it's subjective. There are a lot of people who, you know, they're just going to stay home miserable. It's just a fact. But they can tolerate it at home. And we see a lot of those in-betweeners in the emergency department, and frankly, we send a lot of people home, but we also admit a fair number of people who come in for very good reason and are legitimately very sick.
So you talked about different variants here. Tamiflu, though, is still effective against them?
Yes, Tamiflu is actually completely effective against all of the variants, and I shouldn't say completely is very relative because it has to be given within 2 days of onset for maximum effectiveness, but it is effective against them, and in fact, the flu variants, or the flu strains, I should say, that are circulating, whether it's H1N1, H3N2, or influenza B, those are all tested actually routinely against antivirals. And so far, nobody or none of them have shown an unusual resistance pattern.
You talked about vaccinations. Obviously, being vaccinated is the best defense. There are plenty of people who have chosen not to be vaccinated. What's your advice if you choose not to get vaccinated and then you do end up with the flu? What do you do?
So a couple things. If you do end up with the flu, I don't want to say shame on you. It was a bad choice, I'll just say that. Because getting a flu vaccine is a pretty straightforward thing. But really the idea is you want to make sure that you're staying well hydrated. You want to make sure that you're controlling your fever as best you can. And that's pretty much all you can do. I mean, there's over-the-counter cough and cold remedies, and they'll help the symptoms of the runny nose and whatnot. But, you know, the best thing to do is to have been vaccinated to begin with so you don't get sick to begin with, or even if you do get the flu, you have a milder illness.
I was going to say, your symptoms will be worse, right?
If you don't get vaccinated, people's symptoms tend to be worse to the point that they either get hospitalized or maybe more likely to die. So that's why we encourage vaccination, obviously. The thing that I want to really kind of emphasize as an unusual twist this year is, even if you have not been vaccinated yet, and so, you know, right now we're at the beginnings of January, you should get vaccinated anyway, even though it seems like maybe we're into the flu season for a couple of reasons.
We're already purple.
Right, exactly. We're all right. Why do it? We're already purple, right? Or maybe I've already had the flu, or I know somebody that's already had the flu, and maybe I've been touched by it. A couple of reasons. One, flu season can go all the way into April, May easy. So, you know, you've still got a few more months out there. But the other is, the interesting pattern we've noticed is H3N2 is spiking all over the place. We're seeing a ton of it. But the Henry Ford lab has actually seen an unusual amount of influenza B as well. And the take home is you can get both A and B in any given year. So even if you think you've had the flu already, getting vaccinated will keep you from potentially getting the flu again in the same year. So it's still, like, there's still plenty of time, and you should just do it this year.
Gotcha. Okay. Dr. McGeorge, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Pleasure.
I also talked to Dr. McGee about the CDC's recent change to vaccine schedule recommendations for kids. You're going to hear that conversation and his advice for parents coming up in about an hour. Well, just days after the United States seized control of Venezuela, the president and his allies are eyeing the country's oil industry. We're going to break down the latest in Venezuela, plus tensions in Colombia and a fight over Greenland. That's next. Welcome back. A live look at the White House now, the epicenter of what has been an extraordinary week of international developments. We're going to start with that dramatic pre-dawn operation Saturday where U.S. forces captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife. By Monday, Maduro was in a U.S. courtroom. Since then, the situation has intensified, with U.S. forces seizing 2 more oil tankers with ties to Venezuela. One intercepted in the North Atlantic, the other in the Caribbean. Now here's what White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt had to say about it.
This was a Venezuelan shadow fleet vessel that has transported sanctioned oil, and the United States of America, under this president, is not going to tolerate that. I would also just add the vessel had a judicial seizure order, and the crew, so that means the crew is now subject to prosecution for any applicable violation of federal law, and they will be brought to the United States for such prosecution if necessary.
Now at the Capitol, lawmakers are fighting over what's happening, with Democrats on various sides of the situation.
I'm not aware of a single Democrat, except maybe some tenderness to, with Bernie, towards, like for me, I mean, he's a, everyone agrees Maduro is a terrible. He displaced 8 million Venezuelans. I mean, it's like, why can't we just say it's better having him gone?
This administration is talking about putting an official who arguably is the most anti-Venezuelan federal official in the United States, and Stephen Miller, in charge of this operation, and we think this is going to be good for people. This is like putting the fox in the hen house.
It's very clear, and we all know, that Maduro is a vile creature, ruthless in the way he treated the people of his country. There was an election which he lost, and so he's an illegitimate leader of the country. It's also very clear that our military performed excellently in the execution of the assignment they were given by the President of the United States. It is not clear what comes next.
Now, right now, the White House is getting access to 30 to 50 million barrels of Venezuelan oil. It sounds like a lot, right? But here's some perspective. The U.S. uses about 20 million barrels every single day. Plus, getting Venezuela's oil production back up and running is not something that happens overnight. We're talking billions of dollars in infrastructure investment. Secretary of State Marco Rubio laid out what happens next in terms of oil production.
We're going to sell it in the marketplace at market rates, not at the discounts Venezuela was getting. That money will then be handled in such a way that we will control how it is dispersed in a way that benefits the Venezuelan people.
Now, meantime, things are heating up for Venezuela's neighbor, Colombia. On Wednesday, protesters took to the streets of Bogota. Earlier this week, President Trump threatened military action against that country. Yesterday, the president spoke with Colombian President Gustavo Petro amid these rising tensions. A Colombian official called the call very positive and the two agreed to meet at the White House soon. And Colombia is not the only country the U.S. is juggling right now. Strong words coming from Denmark all over Greenland. The Danish Prime Minister says any American attempt to take control of Greenland would effectively end NATO. Remember, Greenland is part of Denmark, which means it's one of our NATO allies.
Greenland has never been for sale and never will be for sale. So nothing has changed from the Greenlandic side. And of course, we can see that U.S. is trying to say that they won't rule out to annex our country, and they're also interested in getting our country in other ways. But it's not interesting for us. This is completely appalling to me, if you ask me. I think it's a completely wrong way to collaborate with other partners, and this is something that, you know, I'm very opposed to, even talking in these kind of senses. So it's very disrespectful towards the Greenlandic people.
We're not at war with Greenland. We have no intention of being it. We have no reason to be at war with Greenland, okay? Everybody knows there's geopolitical and strategic importance of that landmass. And that's what everyone has talked about. By the way, this is not just President Trump. I think this goes back to Truman.
All right, let's go back to the Capitol now, where there's also today going to be a war powers vote that could be heading to the Senate floor. This is all an effort to stop any sort of possible U.S. takeover of Greenland. We're going to keep you updated with all the developments throughout the day over on our website at clickondetroit.com. Well, the temperatures are going up, but the rain is on the way. Ashley is tracking all that for us. And then a new season is on the way, and it's not winter or spring. Next, what you should be looking out for. Welcome back, everybody. It is the most wonderful time of the year. It's Girl Scout cookie season. I know people are opening their wallets for those Girl Scout cookies. The 2026 season, though, arriving with a new flavor called Explore More's. The sandwich cookies are inspired by Rocky Road ice cream. There's a couple of different ways you can get your hands on these. You can reach out to a Girl Scout if you know one, or you can visit girlscouts.org. Wait a minute, you can just order them online now?
Hey, I mean, it's all about the business model, right?
Right.
But what are your favorite?
Ooh, okay. My personal favorite, Samoa's.
Okay. That has the coconut on it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I love those. I know the most popular is Thin Mint.
Okay, yeah, probably.
Right?
And I'm outside of both of those.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you the peanut butter one?
The tag-along, the chocolate-covered peanut butter.
Yeah.
Yes. And I also like the old school shortbread, which is like the trefoil or trefoil.
Ooh,
Yeah.
what are the ones with the lemon?
Oh, yeah.
It's
What
like
are
a
those called? I know
lemon
what you're-
drops? Producer Mary knows.
Lemon drops, yeah. And then there's also like the peanut butter sandwich too. That's kind of like a nutter butter flavor. I mean, you just can't go wrong.
But
I
you're
do
not
like
a Samoa?
I don't like coconut, so I won't eat that. But I like Thin Mints. But you know what? The Girl Scouts sell like Thin Mint pretzels at Costco. Do you know that?
I have seen these before.
They're delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A friend of mine at a party last year had Thin Mints frozen, crushed them up and put them into vanilla ice cream for like a little woof.
I bet that was very tasty.
My gosh.
I know. The Girl Scouts have figured something out. I mean, like, think about how many years they've been selling this, and that, the love never
Leave
dies.
it to girls. They'll figure it out.
That's right. Girl power.
Can you figure out how to get rid of this fog?
Yes, the sun is out there, and it's going to help us out more today. So, yeah, you can see how the sky conditions are changing on our map here. Sun kind of beaming through down into Monroe and portions of Lenawee County. You go all the way up towards Lapeer. You're seeing some sunshine. Pockets of haze. That's going to improve over the next hour or so, but those temperatures are still kind of hovering close to the freezing mark. So still 0 mile visibility at Metro Airport, and you go just a little farther north of that and off towards Ann Arbor. We'll take a closer look, kind of skipping around town, just like you see in the camera below me. That's Metro Airport because it's on the map as well. It's hard to see the terminal. So we do have.
What is that?
Yeah, what is it? It just looks like a gray camera, but I promise you, Metro Airport is there. Belleville, I mean, you could just kind of make out something a little bit at the surface there, but still pretty hazy, which is not far from Romulus. And then a live look at Ann Arbor. We've seen improvement there for sure because we did have some dense fog out in Ann Arbor. And our Windsor sky cam shows you the sunshine. So yeah, nice sun beaming over the downtown
What a
skyline.
drastic difference.
I know. So Detroit looking pretty A-okay. Sun, clear conditions. But let's go ahead. Yeah, that's another look at Detroit. Go over to Southfield. Oof. Yeah, that 696 drive and not looking great. I mean, well, you can only get through on one side anyways.
That's right,
And then you had the visibility to it.
The other side's even worse.
Yeah, just skip 696 altogether. All right, so 51 today for the high temperature, and that's well above that average of low 30s. We have the clouds that'll build back in. So if you remember this time yesterday, I was talking about we have this window this morning where we've cleared out the clouds and you would get sun if you're not dealing with the fog, but it doesn't last long because the clouds build in midday, and that's going to lead us to our rain showers by late afternoon, early evening. Showers will go through the overnight into early tomorrow. It's part of that low you see on the screen, that warm front, that red line that you see attached to the low pressure system. Still looks like it's ways off, but before you know it, it will be here. As we put that into motion, that warm front lifts, and along that front will be the showers that enter our southwestern suburbs first between 5 and 6. It'll push to the northeast, so it becomes more widespread, pushing across the area through the evening, that evening rush hour drive. Scattered to widespread showers through the overnight. We're still in the warmer sector. That warm front has pushed out of here, so the warmer air is pushing in along with scattered rain, so we continue to rise in temps through the overnight. That cold front sweeps through tomorrow morning, and that's going to bring changes. So it pushes a lot of that rain out of here, but then the winds shift out of the north, and we will have falling temperatures on Friday. But before we have the falling temps, we will likely break the record high tomorrow of 55, set back in 1949, with a forecasted high of 59 in the early morning hours. And, some models are even looking at low 60s, so we'll have to see how it shakes out. But nonetheless, we would shatter that high. But check out the 20-degree drop in 12 hours from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So don't think that near 60-degree temperature is when we're dry in the later part of the day. You're not enjoying it as much. So that's the low pressure system with the front we're tracking for tomorrow that I just showed you in greater detail as we were looking at southeast Michigan. But we do have a secondary front that's going to cross the area into the weekend. So Saturday starts dry, but then that low pressure system comes. It's a winter storm that'll bring gusty winds and a changeover to snow by the time we get to Sunday, which I believe could bring about 1 to 2 inches of snow across the area. But 4 days to really, lock into those totals and figure that out, because that low shifts, 20, 30 miles, and it makes a difference. But nonetheless, we go from near 60 to back in the 30s by Sunday and stick it in those 30s next week.
All right.
You're so happy about it, Nick.
Think about Girl Scout cookies again.
Oh, I mean, how can you not? I mean, I do love that season. But the problem is, Nick, you have to eat the box at once. Like, you can't stop. They're addicting.
Yeah, we have to talk about this coconut thing with you, though.
Okay.
Delicious. Okay, if your bank account is still recovering from the holidays, you are not alone. January is usually a slower month for sales, but there are still a few ways to save if you know where to look. Consumer Reports is breaking down the best deals you can expect this month. Here's Rhonda Walker.
January definitely slows down a bit in terms of sales.
After the holiday rush, many of the deep discounts in November and December disappear. That's why it's especially important for shoppers to know what to expect. And Consumer Reports closely monitors pricing trends throughout the year and has shopping tips on what big ticket items go on sale each month.
It's going to be a little bit of a dearth of deals and discounts for a little while, but there are still some opportunities to save.
MLK Weekend is the biggest sales event of the month, and it's especially good for shoppers looking to replace large appliances.
You're going to see a lot of sales on pretty much every large appliance there is.
CR says that includes washers, dryers, dishwashers, and refrigerators. And if you're shopping for a refrigerator, CR has found that top freezers are more reliable than other types of refrigerators, including the coveted French door style. MLK weekend is also a great time to snag deals on a mattress, with major brands offering meaningful discounts, along with other items to help you sleep better.
There will be a lot of bedding sales, so sheets and pillows and duvets, anything you'll need to enhance your bedroom.
CR says the best pillows stabilize your neck and align it with the rest of your body. The right bedding is also key. Look for sheets and breathable fabrics like 100% cotton or linen. And retailers know that January is when those New Year's resolutions kick in.
You're going to see discounts on fitness tools and trackers and equipment. If you need a new treadmill for your home gym, or you want a fitness tracker or a smartwatch, January is the time to look for deals on those items.
CR says to be on the lookout for retailers and fitness brands that may offer special promotions, not just on products themselves, but subscriptions and memberships as well.
And that was Rhonda Walker reporting for us. The bottom line, while January is not packed with bargains, you can still find deals, but just might take a little research. Another hour of Local 4 Live coming your way. The CDC changing its vaccine recommendations for children, and it's leaving parents with a whole lot of questions. We're going to talk to Dr. G about everything you should know. And then, if you're looking for a New Year's resolution, Director Nick, how about grandma hobbies? Why knitting or baking could be good for your brain. And do you constantly feel let down by the Lions? A new study finds the Lions are one of the most depressing NFL teams for fans to follow. We're going to tell you that criteria and the two teams that ranked higher. More news, more weather, more Local 4 Live when we come back. Welcome back, everybody. On a Thursday, we are watching big local and national stories over the next hour on Local 4 Plus. A live look in Minneapolis now, where schools are closed today after an ICE agent shot and killed a woman. A look at the outrage and rising tension. Then, the CDC's decision to change vaccine recommendations for children has left parents with a lot of questions. We're going to talk to Dr. Frank McGeorge about what you need to know. And do you look forward to filling out the New York Times crosswords or a good Sudoku puzzle every day? Well, experts say these so-called grandma hobbies are actually good for you. Local 4 Live starts right now.
From downtown Detroit, Local 4 Live starts right now.
And thank you for joining us for Local 4 Live. I'm Nick Monticelli. We're going to start in Minneapolis and the very latest on that deadly ICE shooting. Right now, the Department of Homeland Security and Minnesota officials are sharing very different accounts of what happened. We're going to start there. And as you can see, the very latest, again, with everything happening, that video coming from overnight and into the newsroom today about the rising tensions between all the protesters, the security video you can see right now of what happened, and everything else that's happening in Minnesota. Now, a 37-year-old woman was shot and killed by that ICE agent. It appears that she was the target. The Trump administration says she weaponized her car, but the mayor of Minneapolis says there is a very different picture. Alice Barr is in Washington with a warning to you that what you're about to see is disturbing.
Protests broke out in Minneapolis following the shooting, calming for a massive vigil last night. The entire incident caught on camera and sparking very different reactions. And again, a warning that some of this video may be difficult to watch. The city of Minneapolis, once again the center of protest, outrage, and grief.
I'm beyond the thoughts and prayers. I'm enraged now.
After an ICE officer fatally shot a 37-year-old woman identified as Renee Good in the Minnesota Star Tribune. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem says the woman was blocking an ICE vehicle that got stuck in the snow as officers tried to push it out.
She then proceeded to weaponize her vehicle.
Video from the scene shows an officer going to the driver's door, another stepping in front of the vehicle, and when the driver accelerates forward and to the right, shots fired.
The ICE officer, fearing for his life and the other officers around him and the safety of the public, fired defensive shots.
Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey pushing back.
Having seen the video of myself, I want to tell everybody directly, that is
and issuing this stark message.
To ICE, get Minneapolis. We do not want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite.
President Trump defending the officers' actions and vowing to protect law enforcement agents. And as Homeland Security labeled the incident an act of domestic terrorism, Governor Tim Walz urged protesters to stay peaceful.
Minnesotans, don't take the bait. Do not take the bait.
While the community reels. Good's mother told the Minnesota Star Tribune she was a compassionate and amazing human being. Family members say she leaves behind a partner and a 6-year-old child. The FBI is joining the investigation as schools are closed across Minneapolis due to safety concerns. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Alice, thank you. And here in Detroit, protesters hit the streets holding signs against immigration enforcement and chanting, "We will not be silenced." The city has seen several immigration raids in recent months, and President Trump has even suggested deploying the National Guard here to help fight what he calls rampant crime in Detroit. There's also a developing story in Utah. Right now, police are looking for the gunman who started shooting outside of a funeral outside of a church. This happened in the parking lot of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. 8 people were shot, 2 were killed, 3 others are in critical condition. Police say there was a fight before that shooting started.
We were actually just getting ready to leave when all of a sudden, as the ceremony was going on, we heard gunshots outside of the chapel, and we were just told just to stay inside until further notice. But from my understanding, there were more people that were shot, and after this whole situation, even at a funeral, it's just a little bit more sad to see even more gone.
This should never have happened. This should never have happened outside a place of worship. It should not have happened at a celebration of life that was occurring inside of the church.
They say the shooting appears to be targeted and was not a hate-based crime targeting that church or the religion. The FBI is helping with the investigation. Back here at home, charges could be filed soon against the man arrested after allegedly trying to get into Romulus Middle School with a gun. The superintendent said the district trains for situations like this, and security locked down the building before that man got inside. None of the students were hurt. We still don't know a motive or if the man has any connection to the school. In Detroit, officials say the city saw a dramatic drop in violent crime last year, reaching levels not seen in decades. For the first time since the mid-1960s, homicides fell below 200. Homicides were down 18.7% in total. 165 people were killed in violent crimes. Also, 6,235 guns were taken off the streets. Police are also reporting sexual assault, aggravated assaults, robbery, burglaries, and motor vehicle theft. All those crimes also down across the board. Now, tomorrow morning, you can witness history in Detroit at 10 a.m. We're going to bring you live gavel-to-gavel coverage of the historic investiture of Mayor Mary Sheffield and Detroit city leaders. It's a new chapter for the city tomorrow at 10 here on Local 4 Plus. Well, this morning is marking 8 days since the Affordable Care Act's enhanced premium subsidies expire. Today, the House plans a vote on a Democratic proposal to extend them for 3 years, but it's facing a challenge to make it through the Senate. Shante Passmore is breaking down what you need to know and how Michigan lawmakers are reacting.
Good morning. This has been at the forefront of several battles on Capitol Hill in recent months. And now that they've expired, millions of Americans are faced with tough decisions on health care and their wallets.
As of January 1st, millions of people saw that their premium payments are going up. Some of them may have already dropped their coverage. Other people may have tried to switch from, say a silver or gold plan to a bronze plan, which would have a much higher deductible, but might keep their premium low enough that they could afford to stay insured.
Enhanced subsidies made Obamacare coverage much more affordable, which helped draw a record 24.3 million people to sign up for 2025 policies. Cynthia Cox is a senior vice president for KFF, a nonpartisan health policy research group. She says enhanced premium tax credits allowed lower income Americans to enroll in policies with $0 or near $0 monthly premiums, while those in the middle class became eligible for help for the first time. Cox says 4 out of 5 consumers were able to find 2025 plans for $10 or less a month. Today, the U.S. House is set to vote on extending enhanced tax credits under the Affordable Care Act. Those credits, put in place during COVID and extended in 2022, lapsed on January 1st, driving up healthcare costs for 22 million Americans. Ahead of the vote, Local 4 spoke with Michigan lawmakers on both sides of the aisle to see where they stand.
Again, it helps keep insurance affordable for communities like ours.
All these subsidies do is go to line the pockets of big insurance companies.
Congresswoman McClain tells Local 4 she'll be voting no, while Congresswoman Tlaib said she'll be a yes vote today. Meanwhile, open enrollment ends January 15, meaning there's still some time for people to shop for coverage before being automatically renewed into their current plan. We're in Detroit. Shante Passmore, Local 4.
And we will be watching today's votes. We'll bring you updates in later editions of Local 4 News and over at clickondetroit.com. Crossword puzzles, Wordle, Sudoku. Is that part of your daily routine? Part of your thing? We'll still ahead why experts say these so-called grandma hobbies actually benefit you in the long run. All right, and welcome back. If you're looking for a way to relax in this new year that could also be good for your brain, why don't you try Grandma Hobbies? All right, so what is a Grandma Hobby, you may ask? That's a slow, hands-on, creative activity bringing calm and mindfulness. We're talking about knitting, gardening, Sudoku, crossword puzzles, even baking with all that sourdough bread that's trending. You love all that stuff. Well, it's not just about relaxation, though. Learning new skills like deciphering the New York Times crossword or trying to figure out why your apple cinnamon loaf isn't rising the way it should, which I believe is very unique to producer Mary. That's not something you just try to do. All of it is helping your brain, boosting memory and thinking skills. Research shows that regularly engaging in these activities can lower the risk of dementia. We're joined now by Dr. Asher Ali, neurologist with Henry Ford Health, to kind of walk us through some of this. First of all, Doc, is this offensive to call them grandma hobbies? Is this a problem?
I think it's an honor, actually. I mean, I would love to attribute something that I've learned or doing because my grandmother used to do it. So I think it's an honor, if anything.
All right, so kind of walk us through the science here. I mean, I guess I kind of understand the thought process behind if you're older and trying to keep your mind triggering, but why younger?
Yeah, I think what we're learning is that, now in our free time, a lot of us are resorting to sort of this passive scrolling of our screens, which is really not activating much of the brain. But when you involve yourself in a hobby that requires the additional senses like touch and hearing, and you're sort of repetitively doing something like knitting or baking bread, like you mentioned, sourdough, these sorts of things help build neural connections in the brain. They tap into areas of the brain that are relatively untapped with these screen following hobbies that we have. So all of this really does support brain health, and I think even initiating it from a younger age is good for you.
Did the research show that there are some activities that are better than others on that list of grandma hobbies?
Yeah, there's a list of different hobbies that seem to be support not just brain health, but even other things like mental health and even social networking. And so, for instance, if someone were to get involved in a hobby that involves knitting and they join like a knitting club at their local church or community center, then it helps sort of build those sort of social connections as well. And so we think that that's even better for the brain because now you're combining a hobby that activates the brain and makes it more agile, and combining that now with the benefits to the brain that come from social connections and networks.
Gotcha. I'm not sure how much of the study you've actually memorized here, so I apologize if I put you on the spot, but how were they able to measure something like this?
Yeah, so what we basically would do is it's more of a connection and you can say an association. So it's not that hobbies necessarily have shown to reduce it per se, but when you take a population of people, this was a very large study, and you compare those that have hobbies and those that don't, the ones that do have hobbies, especially these grandma hobbies, if you will, they over time are less likely to develop cognitive decline and dementia. And that's on everyone's minds these days. So we know there's a strong association. Now, you could argue that maybe the only reason you're pursuing a hobby is because you already have strong brain health. That's a possibility, but it's more likely that starting a hobby and maintaining a hobby is actually then preventing cognitive decline and dementia.
Any connections or any discussions about those of us who, let's say, try to pick up a crossword puzzle and we have more stress and anxiety because I can't figure it out?
Yeah, I mean, that problem solving can sometimes be a double-edged sword. I think it takes time. Certainly you want to challenge yourself to a limit, right? You don't want to overdo it. So every single time you're never getting that Sudoku or that Wordle puzzle solved. So it should be something that requires your brain to be activated, but doesn't depress you because you're unable to complete the task.
What I found interesting too in the study is that there's this calming that can actually happen as well. What's the connection?
Yeah, so we know now for sure that these grandma hobbies do elicit sort of this calming sensation, and it really does support mental health. And again, a lot of it has to do with when we're engaging in some of these activities like gardening or knitting or baking, these require our full attention and they require us to be present in that moment. And we know through research and through just experience now that when any individual really focuses on that present moment and is attentive to a task, we tend to feel much more calm and much more relaxed.
See, the non-scientist in me was thinking that it had something to do with eliciting memories of your fond grandma or something like that.
Yeah, I'm sure that contributes as well.
Okay, Dr. Asher Ali, Henry Ford Health, thank you so much for your time this morning. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, coming up, still ahead, we're going to take you to the European area experiencing a rare snowfall. And people are making snowmen in front of some pretty iconic spots. I'll give you a hint. One of them could be the Eiffel Tower. And here at home, it's a different story. We're experiencing a rare winter warm-up. Ashley is going to tell us how long these warmer temperatures will last. Welcome back, everybody. Here's something you don't see very often. Paris covered in snow. You're looking live at the city skyline right now. You can kind of see the Eiffel Tower there right in the center. It's difficult, though, with all that snow. A rare cold snap is continuing in that French capital today. It's the third day in a row. Many tourists and residents embracing the snow, stopping to admire the city's famous landmarks. At the iconic Notre Dame Cathedral, crowds posed for photos along some snowmen. All right, the good news is here at home, you can see some sun finally peeking out and hitting downtown Detroit. Not that way, though, across much of the metro area as we try to burn some of that fog off. Hey, Ash.
Now, forewarned weather with Exact Track 4D.
Well, here's your weather story as we're rounding out the week and heading into the weekend. A lot of ups and downs that include record territory temperatures come Friday morning. We have rain returning this evening into Friday morning, and then another bout of precipitation this weekend, but that'll likely be rain to a wintry mix to snow and even some gusty winds this weekend that could reach about 35 miles per hour. But for today, plan for the clouds to increase. We have fog through the morning, and then that's going to dissipate and clouds will roll back in ahead of the rain. rain. 51 for the afternoon high, well above where we should be for this time of year, which is low 30s, but we'll actually continue to warm up through the overnight. Maybe a little dip as that rain starts to push in, but then with that passing warm front, we will have warmer air surging during the overnight hours. And you can see the warm front developing right down here with that low pressure system. And so let's go ahead and put that into motion for you, because that warm front will continue to lift over the next several hours. And then by, I would say, 5, 6 o'clock, we start to see the rain moving in from the southwest to the northeast. That'll be the motion that we're contending with. Pretty widespread by 6, 7. So this will likely clip the evening rush hour drive. And still pretty widespread to scattered showers through the overnight. That's not hindering the temperatures because we're in the wake of that warm front. So you have all that southerly air pulling in the warmth. By 4 a.m. Friday, likely still dealing with rain, but we will probably be at peak temperatures that could be breaking records tomorrow. Upper 50s to start. Cold front sweeps through late morning, and then that's going to change the direction of the wind and the kind of air mass coming in. So some scattered showers late morning, drying out in the afternoon. But you see those blue arrows in the direction change. That's a northerly breeze, so we're going to see a drop in temperatures as the day rolls on. But in the meantime, we're getting warmer today and tomorrow. Widespread above average temperatures continue from the Great Lakes all the way down into the Gulf. In fact, I think today some record high temperatures are going to be experienced into the Gulf states, and we will be in that record territory come tomorrow morning. The current record for tomorrow's date is 55, set back in 1949, forecasting 59 degrees around 4 o'clock in the morning, and then we do slide as the day rolls on. I mean, check this out, still 59 around 8 a.m. and then sliding to 39 by 8 p.m. That's a 20-degree drop within 12 hours. Usually you see the reverse of that, but it's going to be that colder air advecting into the area. This is another broad view of what we're talking about here. Warm front to start, chasing cold front. So that's the Friday setup. But let's take you to Saturday, because we will have a break in the rain late Friday into early Saturday. But by the second half of Saturday, rain arrives with another low pressure system. And as temperatures drop below freezing into the nighttime hours, it changes from a mix to snow. And for your Sunday, we'll likely be contending with some snow showers that could bring some minor accumulations across town. As of right now, I'm going to call it about 1 to 2 inches and maybe some localized greater amounts closer to the Tri-Cities region. We'll be fine-tuning that as we get closer to the weekend, because a lot of it has to do with the placement of the low. But an early call is I do think that we get a coating of snow by Sunday. Otherwise, we hold on to 30s as we go into the first part of next week.
All right, Ash, thank you much. If you were not a huge fan of some of your Christmas gifts this year, you're not alone. We're going to tell you about this major increase in returns coming up, and then a sign that the Great Lakes shipping season has come to an end. Welcome back. The Department of Health and Human Services is mixing up the food pyramid, so red meat and dairy are now bumped to the top with fruits and vegetables. Some experts argue we should be eating less red meat and dairy, so it shouldn't be so high up, though. Whole grains are on the bottom, and no surprise, it's still recommended to limit alcohol, sugar, and ultra-processed foods. All right, taking a live look over Sault Ste. Marie, where the Soo Locks will close to all marine traffic next week for its annual winter repairs and maintenance. According to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the locks will close midnight on Thursday, January 15th, or until traffic ceases. The pole lock will remain operational through the 15th. It will be dewatered and is scheduled to be reopened on March 25th. The holiday shopping season may be over. The holiday return season, that's in full swing. Purchase returns in the days immediately following Christmas increased around 5% compared to years prior. That's according to a new Adobe Analytics report, which expects returns to keep climbing in the first few weeks of January. The report also found that customers spent a record amount on online shopping this past holiday season at more than $250 billion. The CDC's recent change to vaccine recommendations for kids has left parents with a whole lot of questions. Coming up, I'm going to talk to our own Dr. McGee, to try to get some answers.
From downtown Detroit, Local 4 Live starts right now.
Welcome back to Local 4 Live. I'm Nick Monticelli. Thank you so much for joining us here. Now to a conversation on vaccines for kids. This week, the CDC reduced the number of recommended vaccines from 17 to 11. They still encourage children to get vaccinated for measles, mumps, rubella, polio, chickenpox, and more, but they narrowed recommendations for others like hepatitis A and B. The state of Michigan is encouraging families to stick to that previous schedule, one that is recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics. I talked to Local 4's Dr. Frank McGeorge to get some answers to the questions that many parents have right now. Here again, Dr. Frank McGeorge. We talked about vaccines earlier when we were discussing flu. Now there's new information from the CDC recommending less vaccinations for your children, which I see your eye roll there.
Well, yeah, I'm just going to preempt it or make a note in the conversation early. I do not want to have any political opinion about this. I mean, the opinions I give, I do have political opinions, but I'm going to try not to be political about this because this is obviously a very politicized topic.
Okay, so looking at the science then, what is the CDC now recommending?
So basically, the old vaccine schedule, much of it does remain intact, which is actually somewhat reassuring to me because there were some concerns that maybe they were going to overhaul things like getting rid of measles, mumps, rubella, which would have been, well, in my mind, crazy talk. But you know, that kind of change has not happened, which is good. But they have changed a lot of other things. So hepatitis A, that's up to, I'm going to say, parental discretion. Unless you are in a high-risk group, and that's where now they're breaking it up into, recommended for high risk, recommended based on consultation with your physician and, shared decision-making and discussion. So hepatitis A, hepatitis B, rotavirus, the second dose of HPV has basically been stricken. That's human papillomavirus. The meningococcus, the meningitis vaccines have been removed, or I should say made a little bit more optional. And I'm blanking on one more, but I know there's one more in there because there were 6 altogether.
So when you look at what the CDC is now recommending, obviously I think most people will take this, and I say most, I said should at least have an informed conversation with their physician.
Yes.
I think that's the least we can do.
Right.
There will be some people who just say, see, we didn't need those, and that's where the political stuff gets, and we'll kind of skip that. But do you have any fears that when you look at things being removed, rotavirus, HPV, meningitis.
I forgot the most important one, or I remember the most important one. Influenza was also taken off the highly recommended /
It's ironic that's the one we forgot.
Right.
When you look at some of these, are you concerned that we might see a resurgence then of some of these issues?
Oh, sure. I mean, so let me take the flu, for example. The flu obviously circulates all the time, so it's not a question of resurgence. What it is an issue of is stemming the spread, because influenza spreads like wildfire, and children are among the greatest spreaders of influenza.
Sure.
So if you make influenza vaccination of children more optional and more parents decide not to get it, more children will be unvaccinated, which means it will now spread like a burning wildfire through schools. Now, does influenza kill a lot of kids? No. Does it kill some kids? Absolutely. Is that a good reason to vaccinate? Yeah. But even if you, the parent, say, I'm going to take the chance with my child. I feel comfortable. That's your decision. Yep. But what you're also doing now is you're also imparting that decision on the whole classroom full of other kids, because your kid's going to spread it to the other kids, and so on and so on and so on. And so, that's part of that's part of what public health does. It protects a lot of people with some broad strokes, as opposed to trying to pick off each individual thing and having everyone, choose it like it's a menu at a restaurant. It's really not that simple. There's a much bigger issue at play here, and I think that to me is where some of these guidelines fell short.
Well, okay, so again, not to get political in the conversation, but when you look at some of the data on why they made these decisions, is there any reason not to recommend, say, the flu vaccination?
So that's of course something that I will call them the critics, and I'm not going to put myself in one camp or the other, but that is something that the critics point out, is that there has not been any new data. There's no change in the information that we have available to us to say, oh, what we did last year is not good and what we're doing this year is better based on new data. There is no new data. The decision was based on basically making us more like some European countries. So, I mean, Denmark is the one that they chose specifically, which is odd because the United States is absolutely nothing like Denmark. Denmark is like the size of New York City, with a public health system that is very different than ours, with universal health care, with a very different patient population demographically, et cetera. So to say that the vaccination regimen that is appropriate for Denmark is appropriate for us, I don't know about that one. Right. But the simple answer to your question is no, there's no new science that supports the change. It was a change that was designed to, I think, give parents more flexibility to make decisions on their own about what they were going to administer to their children or have administered to their children. And to be quite honest, I am all in favor of giving parents the right to choose. Yeah. Like, I am all about that.
Informed decisions.
Yes, I am all about that. But the informed decisions, the first word, informed, is the important part. I am all in favor of giving parents the right to choose. I believe in that. But that comes with responsibility. Parents need to be informed. And I'm going to just tell you, like, for example, hepatitis A and hepatitis B, there is a good argument to be made that in certain populations that are at low risk, a hepatitis B vaccination at birth, when the day you're born, is not necessary. But long term, across your lifespan, you should get vaccinated against hepatitis A and hepatitis B because there are real risks out there. Right. So like as an adult, to not get hepatitis A and hepatitis B if you didn't get it as a child is kind of ridiculous. And so in a weird way, what's going to happen, I think, is people as they grow older now will not know whether they got the hep A or hep B vaccine. Sure. They're going to turn 20, 30. They're going to go to Mexico, for example, where hep A is still endemic, and they're going to drink the water, and they're going to get hepatitis A because they weren't vaccinated when they could have been.
Right.
So it's things like that that just don't make good sense to me.
Okay, so with the guideline recommendations changing from the CDC, does this now mean that school districts have to or can be changing their rules on what the vaccination policies are?
That's going to be dependent on the state, the Michigan Department of Health, and so I think that's going to remain to be seen. But the core vaccines do remain intact. Right. So that's still going to be required essentially. Okay. But there are plenty of ways that parents can opt out of vaccines.
Yes.
So that's also out there.
Right. Okay. Last question for you. Obviously, if you're in the camp that doesn't believe in vaccinations, your mind is made up. If you're in the camp that is completely pro-vaccination, your mind is made up. Those people in the middle, what's your advice for them still trying to navigate and understand what's best for their families?
So I would encourage them to go to a trusted, and this is always kind of a loaded term because it depends on what you trust, but a well-informed, trusted healthcare source or a healthcare information source.
You're saying really, Google isn't it?
Not necessarily Google. It depends on your search history and the algorithm, I guess. But talk to your doctor, your pediatrician, about what the real risks are, and understand what the real risks you are potentially exposing your child to by not getting these vaccines. Because, again, in many cases, they are very real, and they may not be immediately evident. Again, hep A and hep B are my pet choices about that, because when I started, I did not travel internationally until I was an adult. And at that point, I had received, both hep A and hep B vaccines. And I went to areas where both of those illnesses were reasonably common or endemic, especially hep A, and I was glad I was vaccinated. And again, to not get vaccinated for certain things, especially if you're going to have a life where you're traveling internationally, is important. I understand a lot of people, they're not going to travel internationally, and those are a different set of decisions perhaps, but that is where understanding the real risk is super important.
Yeah. Okay, Dr. Frank McGeorge, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Last hour, I talked with the doc about the surge in flu in Michigan. You can watch that entire conversation right now over on clickondetroit.com and our YouTube page. Still ahead, it is a very busy intersection in Metro Detroit, but people say it has turned into a danger zone. We're going to show you where that is and take your concerns to local officials next. Welcome back. Time for more of your local news headlines. A judge ruled there is enough evidence for a man accused of killing his ex-girlfriend to stand trial. 33-year-old DeAndre Booker is bound over on all charges in the disappearance and murder of Ashley Elkins. Investigators say Booker killed Elkins at his Roseville apartment. Her body has never been found despite searches at a local landfill. Booker returns to court later this month. 3 people charged in the double murder of a foster family will face trial together. It has been a year since Jennifer Bernhard and her dad, Stevie Smith, were killed at their home in Northfield Township. Siobhan Vincent, Gregory Callahan, and Keith Finley are charged with their deaths. The family was caring for Vincent's daughter at the time in foster care. The defense wanted to split the trials, but the prosecutor argued it would drag out the family's pain. Each suspect gets their own jury. A hearing is set for next month to figure out those logistics.
To separate these even into 2 separate trials is to mandate that 2 individuals in particular, one individual who lost his wife and his father-in-law, and one child who lost her mother and her grandfather, will have to testify now, not just one more time, but 2 more times. That's a hardship that does a disservice to the word hardship.
On behalf of Mr. Keith Finley, who is
Although there will be one trial, each suspect gets their own jury. A hearing is set for next month to figure out how that's going to work. The trial is expected to start in May. Well, the team here at Local 4 is investigating a new danger zone this Thursday. We're going to take you to Dearborn, where drivers are frustrated with the chaos between several businesses and a busy Kroger. Priya Mann visited that congested Wayne County area to see it for herself.
We know that Michigan Ave and Outer Drive are busy roads, but this intersection has a lot going on. First, you've got that Ford dealership. Then, just a block away, you've got a high school. And right across the street, you've got a Chrysler dealership. And then you have this Kroger. And folks say getting out of this parking lot is a nightmare.
You talk about 3 o'clock when they get out of school, oh, it's crazy through here.
When traffic gets backed up into here because folks can't get out there, then you've got some frustration here because you've got multiple lanes trying to come in.
From backups blocking Kroger exits to the timing of traffic lights, drivers say rush hour at Michigan and Outer Drive is brutal.
I go around.
You go all the way out there?
I go around, yes.
Why?
Because it's too dangerous.
Backups can happen when drivers are trying to get to Michigan Avenue to make a Michigan left.
It can get tenuous because there's a lot of traffic that comes up Outer Drive. I think a lot of that is from Ford Motor Company, coming out.
Some try cutting through the Kroger parking lot, adding to the congestion. Many say they simply avoid the area between 3:30 and 4:30 in the afternoon.
There's a lot of traffic that comes from the south where you really don't know where they're going. Folks aren't using turn signals, and when they use a right turn signal, you don't know if they're coming into Kroger or if they're coming up to Michigan to make the turn.
An influx of drivers means you'll need more patience navigating 2 busy Metro Detroit roads.
People got to go to the grocery store, you got to go to the dealership, car wash, gas station. There's always going to be congestion everywhere. So that's why I say if they put a stoplight right there, if they time it with Michigan Avenue and then right there where it keep flowing through, that's good. So you got a lot of stuff that got a lot of congestion around here. You probably need to reconfigure this stuff or whatever.
In Dearborn, I'm Priya Mann, Local 4.
Wayne County did get back to us and says they don't have any jurisdiction, and the intersection is actually the state's. It's MDOT's. We'll be reaching out to MDOT today. Now, do you have a danger zone in your community? If so, scan the QR code there right on your screen to let us know. You can also leave us a note over on Click on Detroit. A new program is making it easier for Detroit seniors to get access to fresh groceries. Metro Food Rescue is bringing free fresh food to seniors at the Gratiot Wood Senior Apartments. That's on McClellan Avenue south of I-94 on Detroit's east side. The Fresh Everyday Pantry will stock fruits, vegetables, and other essentials twice a week. It is the first of 10 planned locations, with the second pantry opening next week at the Teresa Max's Co-op. Still had temperatures near 60 degrees in January. It's going to happen, but then they're going to drop dramatically. Ashley has that forecast for you. And how can you weigh in on a plan to run a train from Detroit to Traverse City? Director Nick is very interested. And there's Traverse City right there. I'll be right back. All right, depending on where you live in Metro Detroit, it would take an average of about 4 hours to drive to Traverse City, but you might be able to soon book a train ride up there. The Groundwork Center for Resilient Communities wants to input, I should say, on the future of a passenger rail. It would connect Southeast Michigan, Mid-Michigan, and the Northwest Lower Peninsula. It's currently undergoing a major planning study where experts are looking at the route, ridership, and the costs. The group wants your input. You can find a link to the survey on our homepage at clickondetroit.com. All right, a lot of dense fog that we've been talking about outside, but things are clearing up in the downtown Detroit area as you're looking live now at Ford Field. Here's Ashley with your forecast that has a drastic warm-up.
Now, forewarned weather with Exact Track 4D.
Well, here's your weather story as we're rounding out the week and heading into the weekend. A lot of ups and downs that include record territory temperatures come Friday morning. We have rain returning this evening into Friday morning, and then another bout of precipitation this weekend, but that'll likely be rain to a wintry mix to snow and even some gusty winds this weekend that could reach about 35 miles per hour. But for today, plan for the clouds to increase. We have fog through the morning, and then that's going to dissipate and clouds will roll back in ahead of the rain. 51 for the afternoon high, well above where we should be for this time of year, which is low 30s, but we'll actually continue to warm up through the overnight. Maybe a little dip as that rain starts to push in, but then with that passing warm front, we will have warmer air surging during the overnight hours. And you can see the warm front developing right down here with that low pressure system. And so let's go ahead and put that into motion for you, because that warm front will continue to lift over the next several hours. And then by, I would say, 5, 6 o'clock, we start to see the rain moving in from the southwest to the northeast. That'll be the motion that we're contending with. Pretty widespread by 6, 7. So this will likely clip the evening rush hour drive. And still pretty widespread to scattered showers through the overnight. That's not hindering the temperatures because we're in the wake of that warm front. So you have all that southerly air pulling in the warmth. By 4 a.m. Friday, likely still dealing with rain, but we will probably be at peak temperatures that could be breaking records tomorrow. Upper 50s to start. Cold front sweeps through late morning, and then that's going to change the direction of the wind and the kind of air mass coming in. So some scattered showers late morning, drying out in the afternoon, but you see those blue arrows in the direction change. That's a northerly breeze, so we're going to see a drop in temperatures as the day rolls on. But in the meantime, we're getting warmer today and tomorrow. Widespread above average temperatures continue from the Great Lakes all the way down into the Gulf. In fact, I think today some record high temperatures are going to be experienced into the Gulf states, and we will be in that record territory come tomorrow morning. The current record for tomorrow's date is 55, set back in 1949, forecasting 59 degrees around 4 o'clock in the morning, and then we do slide as the day rolls on. I mean, check this out, still 59 around 8 a.m. and then sliding to 39 by 8 p.m. That's a 20-degree drop within 12 hours. Usually you see the reverse of that, but it's going to be that colder air advecting into the area. This is another broad view of what we're talking about here. Warm front to start, chasing cold front. So that's the Friday setup. But let's take you to Saturday, because we will have a break in the rain late Friday into early Saturday. But by the second half of Saturday, rain arrives with another low pressure system. And as temperatures drop below freezing into the nighttime hours, it changes from a mix to snow. And for your Sunday, we'll likely be contending with some snow showers that could bring some minor accumulations across town. As of right now, I'm going to call it about 1 to 2 inches and maybe some localized greater amounts closer to the Tri-Cities region. We'll be fine-tuning that as we get closer to the weekend, because a lot of it has to do with the placement of the low. But an early call is I do think that we get a coating of snow by Sunday. Otherwise, we hold on to 30s as we go into the first part of next week.
Ashley, thank you much. The Lions General Manager Brant Holmes talked to the media today after a disappointing end to their season. But do you think the Lions are one of the most depressing teams in the NFL to follow? See if you agree with the new list that ranks Detroit pretty high and not in the way we'd like to. Next. All right, welcome back to Local 4 Live. A live look over Ford Field right now. We're going to hear from Brad Holmes today when he talks to the media at 4 o'clock this afternoon. It was, kind of a disappointing end to our season. And now a new study finds the Lions are actually one of the most depressing teams to follow. The research firm Pickwise came to that conclusion by analyzing these factors: how long it has been since a team won a Super Bowl, playoff win percentages, and the number of Reddit fan posts referencing depression or heartbreak. Here are those rankings. The Lions came in third, topped by the Vikings and the Texans. Coming in fourth, the Atlanta Falcons, followed by the Arizona Cardinals. Rounding out the top 10, the Bengals, Jags, Browns, Bills, and the Jets. Tati and Kim are here from Live in the D. Do you agree with this?
I think we have very passionate fans, so I'm not surprised that they're writing on Reddit like they're depressed or something.
So the stronger the passion, the stronger the swing in emotions,
exactly.
Right?
So it's not like a bad thing that we are like depressed because we're hungry.
Say it again?
We're hungry.
We're hungry.
We're hungry for a Super Bowl win.
I love the Kim take on it. I feel like, yes, we are very passionate, but we need to manage our emotions a little bit, right? It's a game at the end of the day.
Sounds like a therapist.
I'm telling you.
Let's manage this.
Manage our emotions.
Yes. Auntie Tati is coming out right now.
I gotta help y'all. Let's relax. Do we get a check? I get the joy of seeing the Lions win, but it's not gonna you know, change my bank account or my family's health or anything like that. But speaking of health, we have some really interesting things coming up on Live.
Okay, hit me.
Kimmy, set it off.
How many ribs do we have? I think we have 12.
I don't know.
Okay, I thought it was 8. I'm not sure, but get
I'm
this.
not sure either.
There is a surgery that people are doing, removing ribs.
One of their ribs.
To be like skinnier.
Even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear about that? Probably not. Sounds disgusting, right?
Next.
But we're talking about it. Why not get like healthy, skinnier
That's
the
what
right
Kim
way?
was saying. Just work out. Kim was like, be healthy, take care of yourself, and do what you need to do. I think that sounds extremely extreme.
Weren't you just talking about Wegovy yesterday?
We were talking about Wegovy, but I got something better for you today. Jody Treeweiler is in the house.
Oh,
You know, she always has a lot of good advice.
Yes.
She's teaching us about all of the benefits of exercise that don't have to do with losing weight.
Interesting.
Healthy aging. Balancing blood sugar, your mood, anxiety, so many things. And you know, she is a master of all of this stuff. Credentialed up. So
she knows
she's
it
gonna
all.
get
When
us
she is here, do me a favor and ask her about grandma hobbies and how it's good for your health.
Grandma hobbies.
What is that?
Well, you should watch Local 4 Live and you would know more.
Oops. Well, we will have a full report for you tomorrow.
Yes,
How about that?
you will.
I will. Another thing that I'm excited is John Jordan is on. And you know, like if you have something like, let's say a countertop in your house.
Oh, he's wrapping
like 5
us up.
seconds.
Helping us make marble, make it look marble.
Yeah, give a faux
Live in the
marble
D,
look.
an hour and 3 minutes.
Bye. We gotta go.